All right, let's continue with the Wilfrid Laurier University timeline string of events, scandal incidences, where a master's student, a TA in a class, was taken aside by 3 professors or administrators and given a grilling for showing a Jordan Peterson video clip on the gender pronoun issue in Canada. Now, up in Canada, they have this thing called Bill C-16, which is a bill that is part of the Ontario Human Rights Code that specifies gendered violence or sexual assault, or puts more laws in effect with regards to how we address one another, and says that somebody needs to be respected with regards to the pronouns that they want to use. And this is a debate that's been going on since then. Jordan Peterson's position, if I may be so bold as to truncate it, is that the law or the government should not be dictating how people speak. It's one thing to say there are things that you can't say, but then to make it compulsory that you do say things is, for Jordan Peterson, crossing a line. So anyways, that's the debate that Lindsay Shepherd showed in class, and then she was taken aside and Jordan was called Hitler, and you can go back and look at the 2 videos that I've done on this so far. Anyway, so the institution, the president of the institution released an apology, as well as did one of the teachers, professors, the associate professor, Dr. Rambu Khanna. He issued an apology to Lindsay Shepherd. And now what I have before us is an open letter written by the students, or people who are calling themselves the students of Wilfrid Laurier University. It begins in bold on the top. Wilfrid Laurier University is on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. Open letter to Dr. McLatchie regarding the apology to L. Shepherd, or Lindsay Shepherd. Dear Dr. McLatchie, we write to you today to express our sentiment and disappointment regarding the issue with the meeting between Nathan Rambukkana, Herbert Pimlott, Adria Joel, and Lindsay Shepherd, and your apology to L. Shepherd. As it has become public, we have recently reviewed the conversation regarding the problem of a Jordan Peterson, JP, video shown in a first-year class of undergraduate students in the context of pronoun use, which, by the way, has nothing to do with the use of pronouns, but everything to do with privilege, power, and oppression. This video about the debate of pronoun issues and legalizing pronoun use, or legally enforcing pronoun use, has nothing to do with the use of pronouns, but everything to do with privilege, power, and oppression. It's a very interesting way of framing things, but we know that this is the way that they frame things. This is the postmodern, power dynamic way of framing things. We have listened to both sides of the discussion per the audio recording, and we agree with the faculty and staff assessment. Negating trans rights in the name of not taking sides is against the Ontario Human Rights Code, footnote, and morally inexcusable. Now, footnote, making comments or treating someone badly because they don't conform with sex role stereotypes, using language that puts someone down. All right, so negating trans rights in the name of not taking sides is against the Ontario Human Rights Code. So there's no such thing as neutrality in this. This is already about power, privilege, and oppression. This was not a contextual debate. And the fact that L. Shepherd admits to following JP is a red flag. So, again, all right, so one step further. So this isn't about a debate. This is about power and oppression. This, even saying that something is not taking sides is taking sides. Furthermore, even following somebody is a red flag. So already they are creating an ironclad, or they suppose an ironclad interpretation of events. The fact that L. Shepherd admits to following JP is a red flag, though they assert they do not agree with JP's ideologies. Now, my question is if you're legally bound to call somebody they, if they want you to call them they, are you legally bound to not call someone they if they don't want you to call them they? So these people might be slandering, according to the Ontario Human Rights Code, are in violation of the gender pronouns because they're not using the pronoun that Lindsay Shepherd wants. So maybe Lindsay Shepherd wants to be called a they, but see the problem there. However, the insistence that they did nothing wrong may belie that point. And given their posts on social media, it would be hard to argue that L. Shepherd and JP do not share similar ideologies, and these ideologies are wrong. Or they're not even wrong, they're in violation of a human rights code. Even having a certain belief is wrong, is mandated by law now. Which is, I think, exactly the point that JP was making. The slippery slope. Okay. It is assumed by some that university classrooms are safe places to have discussion and debate around various issues in our society. However, this was not one of those times. L. Shepherd's tutorial was gendered violence perpetuated in class, as it is perpetuated in the wider school campus and in our province and country. In their defense, L. Shepherd discussed how they wanted to open the eyes of first-year 18 and 19-year-old students who bring with them their thoughts and beliefs of how the macro and microcosms of this world should work. But we must ask if we can truly comprehend the full extent of JP's dogma if introduced in class without full context. By context, they mean that it's wrong. The full context is that it's in violation, not only of their beliefs, but of the Ontario Human Rights Code. We see the evidence all around us on our campus in forms of violence and oppression, such as white supremacy, anti-black racism, homo and transphobia, attacks on reproductive rights and human rights. Now, that's a big claim, but for them, even having a discussion is oppression and violence. So you would think that, in a university setting, there's a lot of talking about things. So therefore, according to their definition, there's a lot of violence and oppression. Debate about these issues need not be had. There is no debating the violence, but what is important to teach is how views, such as JP's, are harmful and toxic to students, all students, not just those marginalized. I guess that would be up to debate. But according to them, it's not even up to debate. Furthermore, returning to a debate about pronouns and the autonomy of trans students to be referred to in ways that assert their identity is a circular and damaging process that does nothing but stall progress, harm trans students, and affirm these discriminatory ideas as legitimate when they have been disproven ad infinitum. There's no reference, and if there was, there should be a sidewards 8 there. But there's no reference to that. Disproven ad infinitum. So, okay, so not only is it against the law, not only is it violence, but it has all already been proven to be the case that even debating about pronoun use and legalizing or litigating the forced use of certain language according to their set of language, like they want to change the language, they think that it's already implemented, and it's already been proven that they're right and everybody else is wrong. So having a debate, it's illegal, it's violence, and we don't even need to have it already. L. Shepherd departed from the goals of the tutorial by introducing the JP video and did so in a way that was detrimental to trans and non-binary students. If it is not safe for students of marginalized status to come to a university for fear of being exposed to this type of discrimination and oppression, then we will continue to have student campuses populated by those of the dominant culture. That is cisgendered white people, ? Okay, so I don't want to say this wrong. This is just an idea. I'm just having this idea right now. If these people want to be safe, then I think that they should be given an area to be safe. Like let's say give all these people a province to be safe in. The only problem with these people is that for whatever reason, they aren't able to have babies, so that their population will very quickly diminish, because it actually takes this thing called heterosexuality to populate people. But so they want the benefits of heterosexuality, right, which are the creation of population. They want the benefits of having their own group, but they are unable to produce their own group. So they're reliant on being populated, but at the same time they want everybody who populates them, that normativity that is generative of the human race, they want that to go away. So they want the benefits, but they don't want it to be controlling them, which is just interesting. That is cisgendered white people? Question mark. All right, next page. Taking the student perspective of the lesson, L. Shepard felt they needed to shield us from society, yet paradoxically was incredulous at the idea of insulating and comforting students. That doesn't make sense. I'm going to read it again. Taking the student perspective of the lesson, L. Shepard felt they needed to shield us from society, yet paradoxically was incredulous at the idea of insulating and comforting students. Hopefully that will make more sense, but I don't know if it's going to. Does L. Shepard know our experiences? Can they imagine what it is like to live the life of someone on the margins? We do not need the great white savior to swoop in to succor us, as they write to their president. What we need is university leadership that understands the difference between the values that Laurier aspires to and the rhetorical guise of free speech / freedom of expression / academic freedom / public debate that harms those who are different or do not subscribe to the status quo of domination. Now, the problem with this statement, this rhetorical statement, is that if there is no place for debate to occur, because all debate is simply rhetoric, then your position itself cannot be heard. You can't even assert your position, which is to end all debate. So you can't even debate the ending of all debate, because all debate, you've undermined the entire thing. And yes, those of us who do not fit the mold have the right to not be exposed to trans and homophobic dogma as we attempt to attain an education, okay, that is already prefaced by the dominant colonial discourse. Okay, see, this seems like they're completely undermining. Okay, so what is education? They want to be educated, but they don't want to be exposed to anything that they disagree with. So they just want to, I guess they want an echo chamber, which I don't think is education. It is not complex. Whew. It is not difficult. I think it is difficult to understand coherently their position. JP's rhetoric is not up for debate. It is hateful, spiteful, and violent, and exudes a gendered white supremacist ideology. Does that really have a place in an institution that names as part of its strategic plan to build a diverse 21st century university by educating a larger proportion of students from outside the traditional cohort of Ontario high school graduates? So the interesting thing about Reed and Evergreen and now Laurier is that it's built in. They've all built into their purpose this diversity, this diversity thing. So this diversity equity movement is already built into these universities. So of course that itself, that's placed in the law. So this is going to be undermined. So everything is going to be undermined by the inclusion of diversity into their whole structure. It doesn't have to, but because diversity is now being used to undermine every other aspect of higher education, it will. What's going to be the outcome? What's going to be the outcome? We'll see. There's going to be a tug of war. But this side wants there to be no tug of war. They just want to win out of hand, which is everything that they've set up. That they're already right, everybody else is wrong. And no, they don't even do this. They say, well, we should legally, suppress you for not sharing our views already, which I find very dangerous. L. Shepard. Okay. Oh, this is good. L. Shepard's feels their idea of personal development is what we should be subscribing to. This is what we understand as part of the conversation. They want to make us stronger as persons, for us to challenge our beliefs. L. Shepard implies that seeing our lived realities negated would better prepare us for life outside academia. Okay, so questioning is now negating. Doubting is now dismissing, right? Doubting, questioning completely negates. This is the way to create an ignorant society. To say that all question is negation. The only thing that's allowed is belief. And furthermore, only the belief that we say is the correct belief. This is the totalitarian underpinning of this whole structure that they've ascribed to and are regurgitating. L. Shepard implies that seeing our lived realities negated would better prepare us for life outside academia. However, they do not know the wherewithal, resolve, and tenacity we need to get to this point of our academic careers, and the resilience and armor we will need to finish. Life is hard. She doesn't understand that making us tougher isn't going to help us, because we're already really hard. We're armored to the teeth with our ignorance. Sorry. No, they're very firm belief in a certain ideology. It's not ignorance. It's eradication of difference, which is ignorance. And to note, JP and followers' rhetoric has given license to those now emboldened to go forth without fear of repercussion. We find on Laurier campus overt acts of hate against those who do not subscribe to the traditional. As we are not members of the dominant population, we need to work double hard to get where L. Shepard is today. And if they were able to empathize with us, we think they might understand how their comments, and just as importantly, their mindset, are harmful to marginalized people. We must constantly battle to maintain our humanity. And we share with you, Dr. McLatchie, it is utterly exhausting. Yep, I've heard this all before. With outcomes for us such as disproportionate, detrimental health disparities, as we must continually fight this fight on many fronts, including this one. Now, oh man, it doesn't seem like these people will be able to survive unless they gain a bunch of help by, stating how exhausted they are. I mean, how exhausted they are, how hard they work. Like I guess it's a form of virtue signaling, but it seems like they're capitalizing on their weakness and at the same time asserting weakness as their strength, which is interesting. It'd be cool to see how this works out. Over the perpetuation. Just let these people run with it and see what kind of a human being it creates. Furthermore, what kind of society it creates. I mean, against the global forces of a bunch of other people that are working just as hard as them, and are unified under the aegis of other ideologies. It'll be interesting. Perhaps L. Shepard should be concerned about their own professional development, which Professor Rambukkana attempted to improve. L. Shepard surreptitiously recorded a conversation that was not meant to be public, knowing they could direct the conversation in a way that would favor their position. L. Shepard was so concerned about their right to free speech that they disregarded Professor Rambukkana and the other attendees' right to privacy. Maybe that's true. L. Shepard's knowledge that they were secretly recording provided them with an ability to frame their narrative succinctly and in a way that the other people in the room were unable, because they were not aware they were being recorded. As a communications student, L. Shepard knew what they were doing and intended to transform an internal dispute with their supervisor into a national debate that framed Laurier as an oppressive institution. It seems like they kind of want it to be an oppressive institution, just they want their impressions to be what is oppressed or pressed upon everybody else. Another point L. Shepard attempted to make in their defense was that students will be exposed to this hate rhetoric when they leave university and on the internet. So it is incumbent upon L. Shepard to teach us that we may face what we may face when we leave this institution. We must note that for indigenous, marginalized, and racialized peoples, we do not need to leave university to be exposed to hate, bigotry, discrimination, and racism. We live in it every day, on and off campus. Not to say that they don't. Not to say that they don't. But they've made the line on what is hate so permeative that you're going to find it everywhere. They've made it so they can find their oppression wherever they want it, which allows them to, as long as they have a sympathetic apparatus, authoritarian apparatus, they can recreate the world in their image. Insofar as they have the authority of the law on their side, they found oppression everywhere, and they can use their seeing of oppression everywhere to control everything. But they still need that apparatus. They need the state in order to affect this. Thus, we do not need to be exposed further to the violence that befalls us daily when we come to school, which is supposed to be a safe place for us. This point that L. Shepard refers to speaks to their privilege and lack of empathy. As with many of us who are marginalized, content is taught in class that further pushes us out. The content is not taught in sensitive and empathetic context, but instead from a white dominant position. Interesting. I wonder if they could define that. I mean, what would be the white dominant position? Which would be, I guess, would be free speech, open debate, looking at an idea, being able to turn it in a number of different directions, evaluate the negatives and the positives of an idea, and then come to some sort of either disagreement or agreement on it. I guess that would be white dominant position. The other dominant position, which is what they want, which they call sensitive and empathetic, would say you can only look at this issue one way, which is the way that we've decided for you to look at it. Every other way is wrong. There's only one way to look at it. This is what they want, which I don't think is education. But it'd be interesting to see what happens when you just have a whole society only seeing things from one direction and then prosecuting or persecuting, I guess, you could say, everybody who doesn't hold that position. Now, that is not to say that those who are marginalized and those who are oppressed don't need help. That's not what's going on here. They're overstepping the boundaries of this power dynamic. They're overstepping their boundaries and want to create this completely other, even more authoritarian power dynamic by going against the dominant culture, which is only going to work insofar as that dominant culture has within it the empathy and sympathy to want to help the oppressed people. So they are actually maximalizing on the empathy of the dominant culture insofar as the dominant culture is like, yes, we will protect you. With our laws and with our law apparatus, we will protect you. But eventually they're going to run out of sympathy by calling everybody who is part of the dominant culture not sympathetic to their views. And furthermore, not even wanting to look at any other views that do not align with their empathetic and sensitive classrooms that they want. Yes, everything is about those students who were threatened. Ooh, there we go. Here it is. Everything is about those students who were threatened. Why can we not have a place for safety in which to learn? Sorry, they probably didn't write it like that, but that's how I heard that sentence. The fact that L. Shepard thinks it is acceptable to create a toxic learning environment in the name of their neutral right to teach is troubling. The fact that they think what they did was neutral is disconcerting. As well, L. Shepard victim blamed the students who took offense for not being open to new viewpoints. Now, we don't know how many people actually complained, because that's confidential. Numbers are confidential now. L. Shepard victim blamed the students who took offense for not being open to new viewpoints. Whose viewpoint. A strange statement when we consider many of us live these perspectives on the daily. Again, L. Shepard showing but not acknowledging their privilege. In the university, all perspectives are valid. Oh, sorry. In the university, all perspectives are valid, end quote. Bold. No. This statement is incorrect and the crux of the problem. Bolded, italicized. The equating of hate speech with free speech and freedom of expression and academic freedom in the guise of public debate. Weird. The equating of hate speech with free speech and freedom of expression and academic freedom in the guise of public debate. That seems like a incomplete sentence. All perspectives are not valid in that those who promote violence against a person or group should not be tolerated, nor apologized to. Now, when you get to define words as violence, you get to regulate them. And furthermore, when you get to say that there's no debating, you're regulating, then you've won the game. At least you think you've won the game. This is basically, they flip, this whole letter is them flipping over the chessboard of our society. We won! Chess is oppressive. Because all these rules of this culture are oppressive. We want to play checkers and we won. I don't know. Speech that attacks persons or groups based on race, gender, religion, sexual orientation, ability, or age, and propping up white supremacy is hate speech. Questioning is an attack. This kind of speech has been used to harm people and worse. What's worse than harming people? This is the space, Dr. McLatchie, that you are perpetuating on our campus. We have already verified examples of death threats that have been received by our fellow peers, and this is not the first time that students in this university have been terrorized due to not towing the line of what the dominant declared to be the correct course of action. Is this tolerable? Is this free speech? We're almost done here. The faculty and staff who were explaining to L. Shepard why using the video without empathetic positioning and context was problematic were calm and insightful. I think they're kind of manipulative and insidious, but that's just my take. And used many different examples to explain to L. Shepard how their lack of framing of the issue caused harm. Now, again, I've said this before, we've said this before, you can say this again. Positioning, context, framing are a way of controlling the game in order that you win. That is all that is. That's making the game unfair, in a way, by saying that there's only one way to win this game. There's only one way to see this game, and the way to see this game is that we've already won. We've always been right. Why? Because we've always been oppressed. How exactly? By your words. And of course, there's all this data, because society's been slowly progressing and refining our ability to accept other people who are different. We're on this path of refining that, right? There's this great arc of progress, but they're using all that unprogress to be able to back up their progress now. The progress is going into controlling how other people think. This is my take on the matter. All right. However, given that there were 3 people in position and power facing one person alone, I can understand why L. Shepard would be defensive and argue their points. Whoever wrote this messed up and used the word I. So this isn't an open letter. This was written by one person. And then scrubbed and put out there as an open letter. Anyways. I can understand why L. Shepard would be defensive and argue their points. Now, why is that word I problematic? It's because this person needs the weight of we in order to shove their ideas across. Because one person saying stuff like this would be insanity and would be shouted down by everybody else. But we, a contingent of people saying this, gives a little bit more weight because it's about the oppressive class, because individuality is less than identity, and that identity is plugged into all these various groups. Unfortunately, this does not lead them to understanding the hurt and unsafe circumstances of their lesson that day. This meeting was not a situation where learning for L. Shepard could take place. given the differential power dynamic. We do hope this is one of the agenda items on the list of the inquiry, and we do hope that the voices of those trodden upon will be heard. This is not a one-sided affair, but yet again, certain voices are pushed to the margins and silenced. Free speech for some, but not for everyone. This is the climate that has been created on this campus. That might be true. I think they like that. I think they want that very same climate. They just want it in their direction, which I guess according to them is justified because they have experienced all this pain and suffering, so they need to be sure that everybody else no longer pains and suffers them. But then the thrust of their argument would be taken away from them because they're riding on the fuel of oppression. I don't know, that's what I see, but it would be cool to see how this stuff unfolds on a society level. We believe apologies should be given for the way this meeting took place, but we do not believe that staff and faculty needed to apologize for their message. In that vein, L. Shepard should apologize to the students they offended and apologize for offending the wider marginalized Laurier community. Because now we must comfort L. Shepard in their fragility while not acknowledging or dismissing our own pain. Since the university apologized for the content of the discussion, then the message we hear is that L. Shepard is right in their assertion that trans rights and human rights are usurped by hateful rhetoric in the guise of academic freedom and dismisses us as persons of intersectional identities. What did I say about that identity individuality thing? We did not read anywhere in your response to this situation, Dr. McLatchie, about an apology to the students who were harmed by the showing of this video. Who supports them? Faculty and staff did, but not leadership. This is evident in the very letter you sent to the student body, in which you did not provide resources or support for students that were impacted by such destructive discussion. Who feel unsafe coming to campus because you do not believe the harm that has been caused, except for that of L. Shepard. You do not believe the experiences of the very students you represent. Well, you believe the experiences of some students. Dun, dun, dun. There is no room for white supremacy in a university setting. Yet this situation is fraught with clear posturing of white supremacy. There is no room to use the guise of free speech / public debate / academic freedom to uphold white supremacy. Yet white supremacy is defended. We are sorry, Dr. McLatchie, but your apology falls on the wrong side of right. I like how they go to white supremacy at the end. But, sincerely, concerned students of Wilfrid Laurier University who remain anonymous due to fear of harm, retribution, and repercussion. As the issue has been taken into public discourse, L. Shepard has been using their expanded public platform and social media following to target individuals and groups who have spoken out about the harm to the trans community. Students and resource support people at Laurier have been intentional targets of doxing attacks by L. Shepard, which has led to ongoing intimidation, harassment, violence, and death threats. Now, the same exact thing happened at Evergreen. There's this big kerfuffle. Some people acted badly. All this attention goes to campus. This attention comes with both valid criticism. I hope I'm on the valid side, but I'm going to let other people debate whether or not I'm even valid. According to them, I'm just forwarding a white supremacist agenda. Anyway, so there is reasoned criticism, right? That's detailed. You can find a bunch of articles on that with regards to Evergreen. And then there's all that hate mail and all that Bullock stuff. And the same thing happened to Laurier. My problem is that they are using all that reprehensible criticism to disregard the reasoned criticism. Furthermore, they say that all reasoned criticism is the same thing as the reprobate criticism, right? So everything is evil that stands against them. This is very, I don't think that this is going to lead to smarter people or a smarter populace. It'd be, again, I want to be open-minded and say, why don't they be given their own safe state and see how long they last? And I don't mean that threateningly, but it'd just be to see how things unfold. Though if you look at history, you'll probably be able to see that. But they want it again. So give it to them. All right, that's that. Oh yeah.